Greetings, one and all. My name is Jason Davis, and this is Empower Volusia with, a little bit of common sense here. And we're coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere hidden in the highlands of West Volusia County, Florida, in an iron bunker guarded by 2 rabid Pomeranians and 1 crazy cat. And the old crazy cat's still just... he's crazy as ever, you know that? It's kind of funny. Oh, my goodness. Speaking of crazy, folks. Wow. There was a New York City town hall meeting last night. CNN covered it, so we'll give CNN credit for that. And you wouldn't believe the BS.
You can't handle the truth.
That's right. We're going to tell you all about the truth. Yes, because, well... they're up there, and they're telling you all this stuff to get you to vote for them. And they want to be the candidate for the presidential election and the Democrat side. And it's, I'll tell you what, it's the same song and dance.
There you go again.
That's right, Ronald Reagan, there you go again. And let's just start off with this. They were talking about... well, see, they used to call it global warming. But then somebody pointed out to the quote-unquote scientists that did this research. And the scientist is actually a politician who was a vice president who got a Pulitzer Prize for his work in the environmental work. Let's just say this as it is. It was a bunch of BS. The inconvenient truth was actually an inconvenient lie. And I'm sorry to hear this. But you know what? Everybody has jumped right on the bandwagon now during this campaign season because they changed it from global warming to climate change.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
Yes, they're all Spartacus. They're all jumping on the old global... or whatever, what do they call it now? Not global warming, but climate change. And I have proven it to you. Copernicus proved it to us. Oh my gosh, so many scientists, or actually early scientists from the 13 and 1400s. Heck, it goes all the way back to ancient Egypt, where the Egyptian pharaohs were proving that this climate change is a natural occurrence of the Earth, because the Earth is knocked on its side from a 25 million years or so ago when an asteroid hit the planet and knocked the Earth sideways and put us on a 30 or somewhere, 28, 25 somewhere. You have to look that up again to remember that number. But it put us off on the axis, which gives us our seasons. And what killed the dinosaurs, undue to popular belief, was not an atomic winter or nuclear winter, as they want to call it. All of a sudden, you got lizards, big, huge dinosaurs, which are actually part of the bird family. They have a lot of attributes similar to a bird, but the planet changed on its axis, and within 24 hours, areas went from tropical paradise, like the planet was, to all of a sudden, we got bone-chilling freezing on the top, and it's nice and warm in the middle, and it's freezing on the bottom. So we got this crazy global change which happened at that 25 million year ago period. Yes, it knocked all this ash around, but if you really look at the amount of ash on the ground, I'm sorry, you can't prove to me that this created a nuclear winter which killed off all the animals. No, was probably pretty immediate when this happened, because, I mean, if all of a sudden, just like you as a human being, you're outside and it's 95 degrees, and then all of a sudden the temperature drops to 30, I mean, people die. It happens because you're not prepared. You haven't evolved. You didn't bring your clothing. Well, the same thing happened with the dinosaurs, I believe, as a theory. And go ahead and try to prove it differently. You can't. No dinosaurs around today. But anyways, it not only did that, but it also put the North Pole, South Pole axis on a wobble. That's right. So not only is it at an angle, but it's also at a little bit of a wobble, which is a 25,000 year cycle to go around. So we're probably halfway through it by now. And what's going to happen is in the next 10,000 years from now, everybody's going to be, all the scientists, the fake scientists at that time will be sitting there saying, oh, we've got global heating and we're all going to evaporate or whatever. So you can't prove to me that you know what you're talking about because you didn't look at the very basics of science with Newton and Copernicus and Mendez and all these other scientists of early times that came out. So anyway, here we are with our global warming theory, and this is what the Democrats actually do, is they want to give you fear. They put a lot of fear into your heart. And I got some sound bites to prove it. So here we go. Let's start off with Mr. Julian Castro. He was talking about they were talking about global warming and weather change and all this stuff. First things first, folks. Let me just say this. I'll get into that one here in a minute with Mr. Yang, I think, is that one. So let's start off with Julian Castro, who is a presidential candidate for the Democratic Party. Let's just listen to his answer about global warming.
And I know that too often times it's people who are poor, communities of color, who take the brunt of storms that are getting more frequent and more powerful. And so my plan actually calls for new civil rights legislation to be able to address environmental injustice, including making sure that there is a private right of action to go to file lawsuits against polluters.
Now, you noticed it was a little choppy there because, well, let's be realistic. These people, they get up there and they do this, what we call an audible pause for effect. And they talk and they go, they're all trying to emulate Barack Obama. Because that's what I just did for dramatic effect. A dramatic pause. Barack Obama. And there you go. And that's what they're all trying to do. They're trying to talk to you about global warming and the way this works. And blah, blah, blah. And usually Obama used to drop his hands on the table. You could hear him on most of his discussions, on podiums and everything. You hear him go bonk, bonk. I mean, it was I actually kind of laughed at it. But did you hear the first part of that? Let me just say this. Mr. Julian Castro, who apparently, he speaks Spanish. I think he's from Puerto Rico. I heard some of his earlier part of the speech. But my gosh, what a racist. Really, he is a racist. Listen to this first part again.
And I know that too often times it's people who are poor, communities of color, who take the brunt of storms that are getting more frequent. And
he is trying to put racism and people that are poor, the people of communities of color. So now he has grouped in his little speech that people of color are poor. And that they take the brunt of these storms because you're poor and you're a people of color. So the storm is seeking you out to cause harm to your person and to your property. What a racist. And I would call him that right to his face. Absolutely. And you notice how he jumped around anyways, as I was stating earlier. That's because I have software and my computer system. When I download these things, I don't want to sit here and let you listen to 10 minutes rambling of a bunch of BS from one guy who leaves these big, huge, dramatic pauses in. I'd rather give you the information. So that's where all I did was I just removed the silence. So if he actually had talked, it would have been smoother. But he doesn't. He has to leave that big pause there for you. That's just so he can emphasize his point. It is taught in a lot of public speaking courses, and they teach us that. But you don't use it all the time. You use it every once in a while, not constantly like they do. Anyways, now let's go back to Andrew Yang. Here's another hilarious one. This is another guy that's running for president of the United States against the current president, Donald J. Trump. And he's got some interesting comments about global warming. Here we go. Let's listen to Mr. Yang. Now, unfortunately, he says a lot, so I'm going to see if we can just give you the high points. So here we go.
Thanks for the question. I was just in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where they have hundreds of homes that are flooding on a regular basis, 26 times or more per year. So imagine living in a home that's prone to flooding at that level of frequency, which is...
Okay. Now, that's that's the beginning of it. He just went to Portsmouth, and there we are. He just went to these homes, and they're flooding like 26, 27, 28 times a year. All right. Let's think that through, folks. If you live in a place where it floods, it's time to move. Going to go with that. You don't want to build. I mean, where was the engineers and the Army Corps of Engineers and all your geologists and all your global warming people? Where were they when this came through? Oh, and by the way, just to prove to you that this global warming farce is really a global warming farce, Barack Obama, and I said this earlier, and now everybody's picking up on it. Barack Obama and Michelle Obama just bought a $16 million mansion on a beach in Martha's Vineyard. Yeah, tell me global warming is a big deal, okay? He was the one that pushed it, and guess what? I guess it doesn't really matter. Either that or he has really good insurance. So let's continue to listen to Andrew Yang as he continues on rambling about how people live in areas where they get constantly flooded.
Even more extreme than I suspect your home here in New York. So we would 100% make funds available to communities around the country for adaptation and resilience. And then we would take, and the big picture is we subsidize the fossil fuel industry to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars.
Not really. But okay, well, just let him ramble on. I looked it up, and I have yet to find that the fossil fuel industry is being funded hundreds of millions of dollars. Is being actually purchased for billions of dollars, not hundreds of millions. I mean, with sales. But let's let him ramble on a little bit more. I'm sure I'll stop him as he gets a little too carried away.
So now everyone's looking around being like, where's the money? Where's the money? It's like, well, we know where the money is. We put hundreds of billions it to this day, and now it's time to take some of that money and channel it to the needs of the American people. We're looking around. There are already climate refugees in the United States of America, people that we relocated from an island that was essentially becoming uninhabitable in Louisiana. We moved those people. None of
All right, and there we go. This is his premise. This is how he's going to fix global warming issues here in the United States. What he's going to do is he's going to take money. Yes, he's going to take money away from the oil companies, the people that make the Shell, the Chevron, the Mobiles, and all these people that make fuel. They make fuel, distill it in a big factory, which there's like 13 of them in the country. They haven't built any more. We should actually build more. But he's going to take the money from the companies that produce fossil fuel and put energy in the outlets so that you can hear this podcast, and take money away from companies that make sure that your phone stays charged. And believe it or not, everything in this country that gets built or manufactured or grown requires fossil fuels. So they don't want to tell you that part. So they're going to take money away from this company so that they can't do their job. So you won't have bread, cheese, milk, computers, cell phones. You might as well throw your cell phone away because it's just not going to work. So we're going to, and we might as well just live in a cave. Go back to the Stone Age. Anyway, so here we go. He's going to take all that money away, and he's going to give it to people so they can go buy a house somewhere else and relocate off of an island that was constructed by the Army Corps of Engineers down near Louisiana. It's a kind of like where they just dumped the dirt, and they moved everybody off of this island because it was flooding and uninhabitable. It was not. Was the island even supposed to be there? Folks, you are aware that New Orleans is actually constructed about 10 feet below sea level, right? That's why they have to have those dikes. Somebody decided, wow, we're going to build a city underwater. Yeah, I wouldn't live down there. I'm sure. It's just ridiculous. But anyways, that's what he wants to do. He wants to take your hard-earned tax dollars and the money from these major corporations which support the electricity and everything that is manufactured, shipped, bought, made, grown in this country, and give it to these people so they can take their little house that they live in and go buy a bigger house higher somewhere else, higher up on the landmass, because the island is just uninhabitable. Of course. But anyways, Now, here's one of my favorites. Okay. This kid asked Bernie Sanders, Senator Sanders, if he was going to turn back the restriction of light bulb changes. Well, let me just say this about this. Light bulbs. You can't hardly buy an incandescent light bulb anywhere. Nobody really makes them anymore. So you got to buy these little, what I call the little piggy tail ones that are corkscrews. But those are actually more dangerous to the environment than a regular light bulb because they have fluorescence in them, and fluorescence has been known to cause cancer. It's toxic. Actually, the rules are if you dropped it, if you filed the actual Environmental Protection Agencies and OSHA standards, if you dropped one of those in your kitchen, you'd have to evacuate your house for 4 days and have a hazmat team come in and clean up the mess. It's ridiculous. Look up the rules. You will find out. Matter of fact, it was discussed in Congress way back when. This is just, you talk about corporate legislation. This legislation was created to get rid of the incandescent light bulbs because the Edison Corporation and Sylvania and everybody else that make light bulbs were not paying the government or kicking back money to certain elected officials. But now this little piggy tail one, because everybody had to have it, because they don't make any more light bulbs, and they're horrible light bulbs. I mean, they really are. They don't give the light. I have to have a different kind of light bulb in my office here in the iron bunker because I can't see with those little piggy tails. You can't. So my question is, follow the money. Who's getting paid back? Who's getting paid off? Why was it all of a sudden a big government push for this for this fluorescent style light bulb to be manufactured, and you have to have it? So when the creation and the production of the LEDs went through, what happened was President Trump helped release the restriction on light bulbs because the light bulb was that stupid fluorescent light bulb that nobody could read a book by. I actually had to turn on a flashlight one time just to see if it was on because the light wasn't glowing worth a damn. Sorry for the French, but that's okay. Your kids say worse. But anyways, so I had to go with the LEDs. Now, you want to talk about a fuel-efficient light bulb. An LED takes less than a tenth of the amperage and wattage to run as one of those incandescent light bulbs. The starter on the incandescent light bulb is what really eats up all the power. But these are just little LEDs, and they pop, and you can get them in clear. You get them in all kinds of colors, and you can actually get them to where you can see what you're doing, which I'm doing now. So there we go. So that's the light bulb restriction. So once again, the kid didn't get his facts straight. And Donald Trump just released the restrictions on requiring you to have these fluorescent light bulbs. That's all he did. But listen to what this. But anyways, Bernie Sanders goes off on a tangent like I did just now about something totally different than the light bulb question.
We can maybe save the planet. And by the way, let me just say this at this point before we get to light bulbs. And that is, everybody in this room knows. I mean, this is a difficult issue. Nobody has a magical solution. I don't. But this is not just an American issue. This is an issue that impacts the entire world. So what I would do, unlike President Trump, who has turned his back on this issue, in fact made it significantly worse by expanding the use of fossil fuel, what I will do, and I'm not here to tell you that I think it will happen like this, but I think it's worth the try, that in this extraordinary moment of global crisis, I think we need a president, hopefully Bernie Sanders, that reaches out to the world, to Russia and China and India.
Yeah, and he goes on and rambles on about going to all these countries, and you did hear that little chuckle, right? It shows his, this is what President. I think he says this here. Let's try this right here. I think he's where he says President Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, Pakistan, all the countries.
Let me try that again. Hold on here.
Whether you like it or not, we are all in this together.
Let's try it again here. I had to move my little cursor.
Bernie Sanders. That reaches out to the...
See, there you go. Bernie Sanders. And everybody chuckles. Mr. Sanders, take a hint. It's a joke. This is what's going on, folks. These people are lying to you. They're feeding you a line of BS. And you know what? Anybody that would actually ever vote for one of these people, I mean, it's scary, folks. I mean, because it's really, really scary.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
That's right. You need to be really, really afraid, because here's your problem. I have, I'll relay this little story here. That some time ago, a very good friend of mine, and I will just not, his name is Tom. I know a lot of Toms, and this friend of mine, Tom, said, you really need to look at this book. And I said, what book is this? And what it is, it's actually a very large, hardbacked comic book. And what we used to call those in years gone by was graphic novels, because they were graphic with the graphics drawn in them, not graphic as in, less than something you would let your kids read. But it's like Conan the Barbarian. They didn't call that a comic book. That was a graphic novel. Well, this is truly a graphic novel, and it's several books, but I have the complete works in this one book, and the book is called Maus. M-A-U-S, Maus. It's a German term, and from what I understand of the story is that this young boy was meandering around, and his grandmother said, come here and sit down, and she sat him down. She told him the stories of the German concentration camps, because she was there, and she lived through it. She is a Holocaust survivor. That's right, it did happen. It really, really happened. And this lady told her grandson the stories of what had happened. And years go by, and she kept telling him these stories. And what he did is he drew them out in comic book characters. And there's mice, there's cats, there's dogs, there's people. There are all these characters, and each character, as you read along in the book and you see the character, you go, I understand what he is already. I mean, just from the character. And let me tell you what, it's about as true as what can be done. This is, and there's that dramatic pause. This is true history, written in a form to where you and anybody who's ever looked at it, see, we have to make sure the liberals get a copy of this book, because it uses small words and pretty pictures so they'll understand the Holocaust really happened. You cannot get rid of it. It happened. It's part of history, right? So there we go. And this is an amazing book, and if you really want to know about that particular part of a bad part of our history, because it was bad, read that book. And get the full collection, the complete Maus, and you will be appalled as to what has happened. But the reason why I bring this up is because if you follow along in that book, you're actually following what looks like a Democratic campaign. It looks like the liberal media and the liberals have read this book, and this is their plan for our country. This is what they're doing. They're restricting the media, giving only half the truth, not all of it, making up stories as they go, and cutting sound bites down. I mean, you notice I didn't cut sound bites down. I deleted all the silence in it, got rid of all the big long pauses, because there were some that were really huge long pauses. But I give you the full truth. And I always start this out with, you can't handle the truth, but you can. I know you can. I understand you want the truth, and this is the truth. And I back it up with sound bites and data. They don't. This global warming is one of the fears that they put in the people, and the Jewish people, in Germany prior to the Holocaust. Fear. Fear is a great management tool when it comes to government. Let me make you afraid. You have been afraid to not have health care for 10 years, folks. 10 years you've been afraid not to have health care. Oh, my gosh, until you found out that it was going to cost you 3 times as much with all the co-pays and deductibles and premiums and special doctors. But that's the fear. They're fear mongers. That's the fear they instilled on you. They did the same thing with the Jewish people in Germany. And then they said, well, what we're going to do is they restrict they instilled gun control in Germany. This is back in the 1930s, folks. They instilled gun control, and they took away guns. Why? Well, because they're dangerous for people. Kids are getting shot and people are getting murdered. And, oh, my gosh, we got to fear-mongering. We've got to bring down crime. We've got to stop these mass shootings. So we're going to take everybody's guns away. And you know what that does? You can't defend yourself against an overzealous government. It worked. It has worked on many, many times in our history. Take the weapons away, and the people cannot defend themselves against the government that's supposed to be working for them. That's right. And then they fearmonger you into believing this is good, that is good. Medications. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Believe me, I'm not. These are just facts. I'm giving you facts. The Germans even told the Jews that this is good for you. This is great medicine. You will take this medicine. This will heal you, make you feel better. You'll be wonderful. And it was called the gas chambers. And they wiped out millions and millions and millions of innocent people that because they were racist and fascist, and the first thing out of their mouth was everybody else is. That's why they didn't like the Jews, because the Jews were racist against the Germans. That's why they don't like the Africans. Well, they're racist against the Germans. They were the racists. And you got to be careful with people who sit there and say, you're racist, you're racist, you're racist. Because 9 times out of 10, they're the one. It's always the one that screams the loudest that is probably the biggest offender. So I'm looking here at the old clock, and Mickey's big hand is straight up, and his little hand is straight down. So I guess that means I'm going to have to cut down this podcast here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you coming in. Hey, by the way, you can hear us you can see me on Facebook. We get this post on Facebook. We're on YouTube, iTunes, and, of course, Spreaker.com. And pretty soon, we're working on it right now. And this has gotten a little bit harder since the creation of the Internet, since the Internet has grown so much since the 90s. But it's getting a little bit harder to create websites, and we're trying to find a web server, a hosting server, so we can get all this done. And we're trying to get a website up, so I'll be able to give you the website, and you can go to it. But right now, I will tell you the name. I own the website right now. It's called JasonDavispodcast.com. And it's not up yet, but we're working on it. So as soon as we get it up, we'll let you know. But you can drop me a line at JasonDavisPodcast. See how that worked? At gmail.com. And just go ahead and drop me a line and let me know if you like the show, don't like the show, and want some changes to it, or if there's a subject matter you would like us to talk about. So go ahead and click on that, and we'll get out of here soon. And like I said, check us out on Facebook. You can check us out on iTunes. You can check us out on Twitter. And I think that's about it right now. So thank you very much, folks, for tuning in. And I hope that throughout your day somewhere, you just go ahead and use a little, common sense.